listening to Jay.
Cheers.
Nice, actually. Is it nice? Do you like it?
I do like it.
Okay, good.
I'm just, letting it roll around my mouth.
We're going to start with a quick fire round, just to get into it and to like loosen up a bit.
Yeah.
So, do you have a nickname?
Joe.
Pen or pencil?
Pen.
Spring or autumn?
Autumn.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Lark or night owl?
Schizophrenic.
Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Forest or desert?
Schizophrenic. Both.
Abstract or figurative?
Abstract.
Minimalist or maximalist?
Maximalist.
And if you are reading anything currently, what are you reading?
I listen to audiobooks a lot. The one is Miranda July, On All Fours.
When you come into the studio, do you listen to anything?
Yeah, I have noise cancelling headphones in all the time, and I have to be listening to something in order to focus, in a way to sort of block out other thoughts. So I'm listening to something, but I'm not necessarily paying attention to it. It's kind of like background noise, yeah. It's nearly always a book or podcasts. Even sometimes it'll be a film that is actually playing and I'm just listening to the dialogue.
When you get in here, like, what do you do? Do you have like a certain routine that you stick to?
Yeah, so I try and walk here because it's like a 45-minute walk and I have a real good think about, what's going on. And then I'll get in here and then I'll probably doom scroll for about half an hour. To sort of lounge around, sit on a chair, lie on the sofa, think, and then I'd slowly sort of acclimatise to the room and then slowly start to remember what it is I was going to do. So I do spend a good half an hour to an hour of just doing nothing. Maybe like answering some emails or, looking on Instagram.
To try and get into the space.
Yeah, literally just be here. And I think also because I'm walking here, which is 45 minutes walk. Once I get here, it's almost like, okay, right, I'm here, now what? So it does take me a while to sort of warm into the space, yeah.
Do you feel that you've got a kind of set time that you're in here? Like, do you have a kind of, because I think a lot of people sometimes think, is it a 9 to 5? Like, do you have set hours that you give yourself? How do you do it?
I think I generally get here about 10:30, 11, and then I'll leave about somewhere between 5 and 7 o'clock, depending on what time dinner's ready.
Do you usually let people into your space, or is it quite a solitary space? How do you find it?
No, I do let people in. I think when I'm really in the throes of the work, only like close people will come in. I think if there's a collector or a gallery or a curator, I really have to do a lot of work on the space to actually make it accessible to other people. When I'm really in the throes of working, it's just, there's stuff all over the floor. I work a lot on the floor, and there's things all over the place that are not for other people to see, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you've caught me in an in-between moment where I've literally just produced a massive body of work and then gone away. So when I got back, I was like, I wonder what the studio looks like. And it was a complete mess. So I've literally just picked up stuff off the floor, but not really done a tidy up for you. So this is sort of, me getting ready to do the next sort of body of work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just that next body of work, what does that look like, that kind of the process of that next body of work and that work creation?
So I already had quite a strong idea of what I wanted to do next when I finished the last lot of work, because my process is things come out of the last thing that I did, or it's cyclical basically. It might be something that I've just done that's maybe go, oh, I must write that down, or maybe do a sketch, or even it might be a material that I'm like, that's going to be in the next piece, I'm going to put it aside. And then it's just sort of hold that thought until I have the time. So I've been holding on to this thought for about a month. so I know exactly what I'm going to do next. And it's almost like I'm chomping at the bit to get started. But the first thing I have to do is quite a lot of metal work, which I can't always do in my studio because of the smoke, and I can't weld in here. So I have
Is that for the frames or
yeah,
how
so
is it for?
yeah, exactly. So I use like metal structures which hold on the sculptural pieces, and they hold the tent fabric or the material over them. So I have to, the next thing I'm going to do is actually going to be out of the studio, do some metal work, yeah.
Do you weld yourself? Or
Yeah, I learnt to weld, was it early last year? I got an Arts Council funding for it, the London Sculpture Workshop, yeah, yeah.
And when you're in the process, you've already got this idea, you've had it for a month. Do you have your audience in mind?
No, not at all, no. I think when I'm making work, I suppose I do think, how will others view this? Not specific others, just other than me. But really, when I'm working, I'm just thinking about how I'm going to make the thing work in a specific way. How's it going to sing? How's it going to convey a specific meaning or emotion or thought? And
you work a lot with like a material which one doesn't really see every day on canvases and art. Which are tents or old army tents. How did you come about to use that material?
I was making an installation in my old studio, and the installation was a maximal installation of just all of the stuff that I'd gathered around myself. And I wanted it to sort of be like this dark space, sort of like, I used to play in a bunker when I was a kid, like a war bunker in a field, and I wanted that sort of feeling about it. So I had this it was in a railway arch, but then I also had an outside space. And the outside space was obviously subject to the light, and I wanted to control that. So I was literally thinking, what can I do to cover this whole area? And I went online on eBay and bought an army tent and covered the outside space so it was dark inside, and it was all lit with like UV light and red light. And whilst I was making that installation and sort of living in it and working in it, because it was like it was like Kurt Schwitter's Merzbau, so it was like constantly moving, constantly evolving, and I literally just one day started like painting the ceiling, and then was like, oh yeah, this is actually a great material. There's like so much going on. It's got like all toggles and sewn elements and protrusions, and it's so textural. So when I finished the installation, it came down, and then I painted it, and that was like the first piece that I made with the tent fabric. And then that was about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And never look back from that.
Yeah, it's funny because I get so obsessed with materials and like certain things that can sort of become an obsession, and you somehow leave behind other things, but they come back. They come back around. So like working with other found objects, so I was using windows for ages that I'd found on the streets, that people had taken them out of the house to put double glazing in, so they'd be like old sash windows. So I still have like a whole load of them behind the wall here, and I don't ever feel like, oh well, that's done now. It's like they might come back in, but at the moment I'm working with tents predominantly. Yeah.
When you're working with the tents, how do you know when a work is finished, when you're painting them? And
it's funny, I was thinking about this not very long ago. There's a sense when a work is finished that it just belongs in the world, and that when it's really good, or when I think it's working, it also feels like I didn't make it. That it's just become, it's become within itself, and it just belongs. And that's kind of when I know, I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm not looking at it going, oh, when I did that mark, or that mark feels like that. It's like when I've gone past that moment, and I'm like, well, I just don't even know how I did that anymore. Then I know it's like, you're working, you're singing, yeah. But then conversely to that, I sometimes have that, and then I need to just have it around me for, I think, at least 3 weeks, just to have a piece in the room that I'll come in and work on something else, but that it'll be there, and I'll just keep on looking at it and be like, yeah, you're still good. But then other pieces, it might be after a week, I'm like, no, you have to come down and carry on. You're not quite there yet,
So So you keep it around to see how
Yeah,
it feels.
it's kind of like almost like an editing. You know, it needs to be, I think it's finished, but I don't really know, because I know after years of practice that you don't always trust your first instinct of like, yeah, that's exactly it, that's so perfect. And then like, yeah, okay, get over yourself, walk away, see some other things, work on something else, and then look back at it and be like, oh no, okay, you're all right, or no, you're not. Yeah, so to give myself time, really. I think because I'm very instinctive and quick, and I'm moving at a very fast pace. So that's sort of a construct that I've put in order to slow it down and be considered about what you put out into the world.
That idea of putting it out in the world, how does it feel when it is out in the world? How do you find that how do you navigate the outside world, the art world, as you call it, when your works have left and are out?
I think now I've put this sort of thing in place where I do keep the work for at least a short time. I think 3 weeks is a very short time. I think a few months is better. But once I've had that period and I know the work, and I feel almost like you become disconnected. I become disconnected. So once I'm like, yeah, I don't even remember how I made it, that's great. Now it can go into the world and I can rediscover it. So in the exhibition that's just passed in Mexico, I arrived, then the work arrived, I hadn't seen it for 3 weeks, and then re-stretched it, put it on the walls, and then I was like, oh, I'm rediscovering the work. And yeah, there's a disconnect that happens, I think, once it goes out into the world, and I think that's important for me, because I'm so physically and emotionally involved with it when I'm making it. To have that moment of disconnect, is it like important to go, okay, now you're not me, you're other, you know.
When you kind of take that experience that you've had over the last years of being an artist and putting in exhibitions, if you take everything you know now, what would you say to if you go back and reflecting, what would you say to your younger self? Like, I would say,
so much advice from my younger self. Jeez. Oh, I did get some really bad advice, but it was probably good advice for some people, but it was bad for me at that time. That was when I was at Goldsmiths. My tutor said, in my third year, you need to play the game, Joe. And I was not in a position to hear that, because I didn't know what the game was. No one had told me what the game was. He was talking about, going to galleries, going to private views, meeting curators. I was not in that space. I basically taught myself to paint, left school very early, felt very uneducated, and then ended up in art college. Didn't really think that was even possible for me. And I'd only been, what was it? Yeah, I did my foundation and then went to Goldsmiths. And I didn't even know that Goldsmiths was famous. I didn't know who Damien Hirst was. I didn't have any art historical background at all. So I sort of landed in London completely naive. So then to be told, oh, you've got to play the game, I was like, what game are you talking about? So it was the worst advice for me at that time. And he didn't understand who I was. I didn't understand who I was, I'm sure. I think, yeah, so advice at that time in my life would have been just make the work and don't be afraid to be weird and do the weirdest thing that you could possibly do. Don't be scared of that. I think there's a lot of holding back in case you do something wrong, or holding back because you want to make something that looks like art. It's like, don't make things that look like art. Just make, just do.
What makes sense for you then?
Yeah,
as well.
Exactly.
Did you have anyone, like a mentor, anyone along the way that was like, you can do this, like you can be an artist, or was it more of your from yourself that you kind of? No,
I don't think so. There was no. Just no. I think in hindsight I was very unsupported. quite working class background, but quite a gregarious person. I think people would often mistake my gregariousness for confidence or knowledge, which I had none. So I think, and I never really was very good at asking for help. I'm probably still not very good at that. So I think I just sort of bumbled around and had a good time trying, and then just sort of tried to make things happen for myself. I guess probably the first person that actually made that sort of completed a circle for me was Dido. She was a painter, and she had a studio here in Peckham, and she was also a mother, and we met literally in a park and we started talking. I was like, I'm looking for a studio, and we started making exhibitions together. And it was actually through sort of knowing her and that sort of supportive, symbiotic relationship was probably the first time I've actually felt somebody had my back or somebody understood what I was trying to do. Yeah.
It's lovely. Because I think you need that a lot when you're in that.
I think some people get it at a young age, maybe from their parents or maybe from a teacher. But I think I was kind of already outside of the education system. My parents were not at all creative. So,
how have you found kind of being an artist, being creative, and having kids? Because I think it can be quite daunting sometimes to juggle both.
I think I'd done my BA and I was already making work, and I had a studio when I fell pregnant with my first child. And my mum gave me and my partner, the best advice. Because I was like, we don't have any money, we're skint, we can't afford it. I want to be an artist. I don't know. And my mum said to us, there's never a good time to have a child. You're never going to be ready. You're never ready, Joe. So, you're in a loving relationship, you don't be daft, get on with it. Sort of like, just shut up and get on with it. And that's the advice that I took. And it was hard to sort of hold on to my studio practice. I had Fred, and then 3 years later I had Trudy. And I think the thing that was important to me was to keep a studio. And even though I felt like I wasn't utilising it as much as I'd like, is to always have that place to go to, which is your creative space. And I think if you've got a practice like I do, which is outside of the house, it's not something that I can do at home, is to keep hold of that. And it was a tinier studio, and even like I'd take tiny baby Fred with me and put him down, and I'd paint, and then I'd feed him, and then put him back in his little bassinet. So it was just sort of trying to make space for myself and fold the children into that in a way. And then I think when Trudy was about 2 years old, I met another artist, and we were both sort of struggling with our time. Like, really just wanted to be in my studio for a couple of days a week. And we did a baby swap. So she'd take Trudy 2 days a week, and I'd take Bowie 2 days a week. So that we allowed each other 2 days in the studio, which is really important. And then also I did and do have a great partner. So he was working a 9-to-5 job. He'd get home at sort of 6:30, and it would literally be like, kids are in bed, dinner's on the stove, I'm going to the studio. And then I'd stay in the studio till midnight, come home, and then, So it was just literally, I think, bloody-minded determination, but also just like a pull. The studio has a pull, and it's like, this is what I have to do. And if I don't get to come to the studio, I'm going to make anyway. I remember when the children were small, I was always making clothes, like taking vintage clothes, making them fit me, or making bags. I just had to be busy, tiling the kitchen, doing DIY, or even the domestic stuff turns into a creative act in a way. And I think it's important to embrace that and not feel negative about it. And there's a lot of negativity about how much time children can take in your life, but there's no point in feeling that way about it, I don't think. And then so that's why I had a huge gap between my BA and my MA. When the children were older and I felt that they were more stable and they didn't physically need me to be present all the time, it gave me the space to say, right, I'm in the right mindset. Now I could do a full-time course of study where I'm just going to be in college every single day, and then see them at the weekend, sort of thing.
And did you find it hard, or not hard, but how did it feel to go back to do your MA? Because a lot of the other students who go have literally just done their BA a lot of the time and are just going straight into an MA. How did you find that?
It was fantastic. It was so. I think in my mind, I knew what I wanted, and it was this 2-year period of pure focus, and I really appreciated that time because I'd kind of worked towards that. So like landing in college, it was like, bring it, I'm ready. My mind was ready. I was like, I was raring to go. And actually being with the younger people who were like, I guess 20 years younger than me, was just fantastic. And I've made some like long lasting friends. I don't think, I'm not really interested in the idea that, to stick with my own age group. I think as an artist, you can transcend all of that. It's like if somebody's 23 and they're interested and they've got something to say and they're kind and good human beings, I'm going to be their friend and work with them and, and have good conversations. And yeah, so it was a great time. It was a really good time. And I think I really made the most of it. Maybe some younger people don't make the most of it because they haven't sort of waited, or they weren't as hungry for it, yeah.
And if you could sit down with anyone to have dinner with, who would that be?
Gosh, who would I have dinner with? Yeah, Robert Rauschenberg. There you go. He's been my art world sort of crush, specifically the assemblages. Maybe I'd sit down with Robert and have a nice old natter.
If there were any artists, or like an artist that you would, like a young artist coming up right now, that you'd say, like, check them out. Is there anyone that you would say or not?
Well, the young artists are my friends and they're all blowing up. They're all doing very well. So it's like, you've already checked them out. You already know about them all.
Just looking forward, do you have any hope for yourself and for the future?
I'd really like a huge studio, which is only a 10-minute walk from my house. I think to grow slowly is important, and that's kind of what I've been doing. And so to get a good space that works well for me, somewhere that I can weld and somewhere I can paint, that's important. And maybe to also have a home in the studio, move my family in.
I love that. Perfect. Well, I think that we've asked all my questions.
Really? Yeah. Wow, that was good. That was easy. I was waiting for the difficult ones.